10:07, 7 past 10, hour number 2 of Bruce and Dan.
Jake Hartford and John Cass talking about the debate, and we're going to be moving a little bit, pivoting a little bit on the same general issue, but now we're going to be talking about something specific, Benghazi, the lies from the Obama administration, and the 4 Americans dead, and what Biden had to say about it.
It's gotten to the point I can't keep up with what has been said, when it's been said, and
no, you have to keep up, because the point of it is for the people listening to not be distracted by all this back and forth talk. Remember what the issues are. 4 dead and a lot of flip-flopping by the Obama administration over, do they know it was it a video? Was it a terrorist
You know what,
attack?
John? I don't even know if it's flip-flopping or they just all have different stories. For example, last night Vice President Biden was asked about when did he find out what happened.
Well, we weren't told they wanted more security again. We did not know they wanted more security again. And by the way, at the time, we were told we said exactly what the intelligence community told us that they knew. That was the assessment.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Maybe this is one of those, like President Clinton, it depends what the definition of is.
No,
when he says
not.
We weren't told. Wednesday, in Congress, it was on C-SPAN. It was carried on a lot of different TV stations.
And in newspapers.
The testimony of people from the State Department. Ambassador Kennedy was there. I forget her first name, Lamb, testified. Then the other regional director of security for Libya, where they talked about, they asked for 2 things. Number one, they asked for more security. Colonel Wood was there, Lieutenant Colonel Wood. We talked about that yesterday.
They had been asking because in Benghazi there were attacks on that consulate repeatedly.
Exactly.
And what date did this happen? What was the date, Jake?
It was September 11th.
Oh, is there anything that happens on that date?
So when he says there is no request for security, yeah, there was. Go back and look at it. Yes, they did.
Number one.
That's what they testified to on Wednesday. Then number 2, the whole thing about the video and what the intelligence people knew and what they told them. Again, this woman Lamb who testified, they had live time reports on the phone of what was happening.
Right.
They have video now. They even have video now showing there were no people set up in protesting.
There was no protesting over the video. It was an orchestrated, planned terrorist attack on September 11th against our embassy that killed the ambassador and 3 other Americans, 2 SEALs, and a kid.
All right, get this. The Iranian news service put out at that time, when this was going down, that there were major protests outside the Benghazi consulate.
So
okay?
Is that what Joe Biden's listening to?
I don't know.
Is that what Joe Biden thinks intelligence is? The Iranian news service that thought that the Onion story about how farmers don't like Obama and want to hang out with they want to hang out with Obama, right? That was a big story in the Onion, and they picked it up. So I wouldn't be trusting the Iranian news service, Mr. Vice President.
I'm not saying he did, but that's what came out. But yet, again, the people in the State Department knew that night because they were on the phone with the people in Libya.
Can we hear that again? Can we hear that again? What Biden said?
The one you just played.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't told they wanted more security again. We did not know they wanted more security again. And by the way, at the time, we were told we said exactly what the intelligence community told us that they knew. That was the assessment.
And he's throwing the security people under the bus.
He's throwing the security people under the bus. He's throwing the intelligence community under the bus. He's basically throwing Hillary Clinton under the bus because she's the boss of the State Department. And if the media doesn't make this a big story, then you know they're all in the tank because it came out right in front of their face, and what they want to talk about is how great Obama's going to be in the debate on Tuesday. This is a story we had yesterday. We put on the cuts from the woman, Mrs. Smith, Patricia Smith, whose son was killed.
Yeah, Sean Smith, he was the IT person. Yeah.
And she said that Leon Panetta held her face in her hands and promised her to get to that he would tell her the truth, and that Obama hugged her, and now she's calling him a bunch of liars. And this woman is not anyone but a mom and an American. She's not a spinner.
Now, later on in the debate, the vice president talked about, whether Iran is going to be able to put a bomb together. Here's what he said about security then.
You're acting a little bit like they don't want one, though.
Oh, I didn't say, no, I'm not saying that. Facts matter, Martha. You're a foreign policy expert. Facts matter. All this loose talk about them, all they have to do is get to enrich uranium in a certain amount and they have a weapon. Not true. Not true. They are more, and if we ever have to take action, unlike when we took office, we will have the world behind us, and that matters.
Now, was he saying that we may go to war if we have to take action?
That's a bunch of malarkey.
And again, he was throwing. There's some additional that we don't have right now, but where he throws the intelligence people under the bus again.
Right.
I take it back. Not throwing them under the bus, actually saying they'll know how close Iran is,
right?
Because we have good intelligence.
When you don't want to know what they're saying, when you want to stick to the nonsensical video story, then the intelligence people don't know what they're talking about. When you want to use them for on the Iran issue, then they do. Okay, this guy sounds to me in a way like an alderman after a few drinks. Okay, he's just going back and forth, but it's bombastic. He's got the big teeth. And everyone that I heard on, the broadcast radio voices, the reporters, not WLS people, were like, oh, what a wonderful debate he did. And I'm thinking, this is the story. This is the story that's important.
Now, again, remember we're talking about the video was getting blamed for everything that was going on, the spontaneous demonstration. Susan Rice, the U.S. ambassador, went on the Sunday morning shows that Sunday afterwards and said, in fact, it was the video.
Right,
it
wasn't.
The president went on David Letterman the following Tuesday, and he was on The View, was asked about whether it was terrorism and all that stuff. And they kept denying, even though we found out from the testimony by the people from the State Department, they knew it was right off the bat. Here is Jay Carney from Wednesday.
Did you and others mislead the public because you didn't want to admit there was a terror attack?
Absolutely not. The President of the United States referred to it as an act of terror immediately after it occurred, Ed, as you know.
I still want to hear the tape of that. I've never heard that.
Well, I'll tell you what, he might have said it in a press release, but then when you're going on The View, because that's what presidents do during times of international crises, you go on The View and let Joy Behar and you talk about what kind of eye candy you are. President Eye Candy.
She asked him directly if it was terrorism, and he didn't
answer the question.
Didn't answer the question.
And then Carney says later she didn't ask the right question.
And now Carney's saying now that the president said it was right off the bat, and Biden says no, it wasn't. It was the video. We're going to get back to some of your calls and some more as we continue. It's 10:15, time for 89 WLS traffic. 10:16, John Cash, Jake Hartford back here talking about last night's debate, also talking about the latest on Libya, and the stories keep changing, and who knows what the next chapter is going to be. Stephanie Cutter, who's a deputy campaign manager for the Obama campaign, yesterday blamed all this on Romney and Ryan.
She said it was the entire reason, right, that the reason that the Obama administration, she said the entire reason was because of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. That's why Libya is a political topic, because of Ryan and Romney.
And the mother of Sean Smith, who hasn't gotten answers yet, that has nothing to do with this, I guess.
No, just
Bob in Chicago. Good morning, Bob. You're on 89 WLS.
Good morning. How are you?
Bob, what's up?
Thanks for taking my call. I have one question. I understand that the Democrats are complaining that the Republicans blocked or stopped the budget funding for security. My question is, if that is in fact true, why didn't the government just pull the ambassador and those three people out and close the embassy?
That's what's called a red herring, Bob. Because
they had money to spend on things. And, Jake, we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, Bob, that they were asking for concrete barriers, which aren't that expensive, things like that, and they said they didn't have the money. They didn't need $200 million for that. at the same time, they say they don't have money. The State Department was spending at their embassy in Vienna. They made a big deal of buying a whole fleet of Chevy Volts. They had a $108,000 charging station for the Chevy Volts, and because this was more important than security in Libya. To spend that, whatever money they had, they went with the Volts and the charging station first because they wanted to show that they were part of the green program and they're concerned about climate change.
And in Libya, they took out the soldiers and they had Libyan security guards who were unarmed.
With radios.
With making $4 an hour.
Yeah.
Way to protect something.
So one helicopter would have eliminated this entire issue.
Yeah. That and the 16-member specialist force they took out at the end of August. Those guys are still getting paid. It's not like, gee, we can't. They're not getting paid anymore. They're on the payroll. They're somewhere else. They're trying
to turn this into a political issue. Like, oh, the Republicans are making this an issue. No, the facts are making it an issue.
Marianne and Lamont. Good morning, Marianne.
Hello. You two are wonderful. I just wanted to make a comment about that Benghazi attack. Mm-hmm. The latest from David Axelrod and Jay Carney is that, those guys knew they were in a dangerous place. What do they expect? That's what they had to say. Is that the height of an I don't care attitude?
Yeah, I
Can
heard.
you believe that?
I heard. Yeah, the statement they made was a little bit longer than that, but that was basically what they were saying. That there's trouble all over the world and bad things happen.
Isn't that disgusting?
They could have been protected. The ambassador could have been protected.
Absolutely, and there also I don't know the name of the person that got killed out there. Some technical guy.
That was Sean Smith.
Yeah, his mother said that they won't give him a Purple Heart or other things that would go along with, getting killed in a war zone type thing because the administration won't call it terrorism. They're calling it something else.
Wow. You can't call it...
like a Tea Party that's gone wrong or something.
Well, not a Tea Party, definitely. But
thank you, Marianne.
Marianne, the reason why he couldn't call it a terrorist attack at the beginning, in my opinion, is because he had just come off his convention where he was spiking the Osama football. Osama's dead and GM's alive, and it was September 11th, and he had taken out security. If you take out security on September 11th, and things happen, you have to change the subject. What they did is make it all about the video.
Sean in Elmwood Park. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, gentlemen. Listen, John, you alluded to it a few times. I think what you saw last night is the problem you have when you're in the conversation with a liar and you're unwilling to call him a liar. I think he was distracted by the veneer teeth, and he didn't want to call him a liar out of respect.
Oh, I thought you were talking about John with me every day.
No, because Sean, I got to tell you, Jake has awesome teeth.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Well, they're used a lot, so I'm sure they're bright and shiny. I'm just kidding, Jake. Just kidding. But what I wanted to say is, for them to disregard what the slight of Israel by calling him Bibi, not addressing the show on The View, not addressing the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood has been given a tour of the White House and a check for $1.5 billion, and agreeing that the sanctions are working. When you have all these countries that we're paying that are supporting Iran, they're cutting our own throats of these sanctions because these other countries are purchasing the oil and the products of Iran. Our sanctions are worthless.
Thank you, Sean. 10:21. Back after this.
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
89 WLS. On your way to work and on your way home, get traffic and weather first on the 5s when you need it most. 89 WLS.
10:28. John Cass, Jay Carter in for Bruce and Dan. Let's get as many calls in as we can. Andy, good morning. Andy? You there, Andy? Andy's not there. Let's take Will and Skokie. Hey, Will. Will?
Okay, are we having technical difficulties here?
Hello.
Hello,
hey,
Will.
Wake up, dude. Come on.
I know. I hear you. The phone's going a couple times anyway. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Great.
You're live.
First of all, who was Biden referring to when he kept saying we and us? Just him and the president? Because his last thing I know, the intelligence and State Department and all these other people, the State Department has its own intelligence group, they're all under the executive. So that's all under the president's control. So
General Clapper, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And secondly, Biden, everybody says how Biden is a foreign policy expert. Well, Biden's been on the wrong side of history for, as long as he's been in the Senate. And that's just a known joke in Washington. He also, if you remember, referred to Martha Raddatz as a foreign policy expert as well. So she's a foreign policy expert, and he's a foreign policy expert. And that's probably why our foreign policy is all screwed up.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
The guys on the ground were on the phone saying that it's not the video, they're attacking us. Okay? Simple.
We will get back to more of your calls, 591-8900. Right now it's 10:30, time for Dave Stewart with news, weather, traffic right here on 89 WLS.
This Saturday, the Fighting Irish versus the Cardinal of Stamford. Join me, Chet Kopic, at 12:30 for all things Fighting Irish right here on 89 WLS.
10:37, want to remind you, you can go to WSAM.com for breaking news, weather, traffic, and more. You can also download podcasts, listen live, and check out our exclusive photo and video galleries. Get it all at WSAM.com.
John and Jake in for Bruce and Dan, and we've got calls on the issue of Joe Biden throwing the intelligence community under the bus for political reasons. Why don't we pick up Andy on line 3? Andy, you there?
Hey, Andy.
How are you? Good morning. I want to thank you for your show. Great show. I saw the debate. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening, Andy.
We're listening.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I saw the debate last night. Absolutely. I wanted to understand the strategic plan. They threw the intelligence community under the bus. We had that information. It wasn't used. Now they're blaming the State Department. This is a repeat of what happened to John O'Neill of the FBI. Let's not forget that. This entire process is very static. We're professionals. Now we're a political issue. They are just running scared. They don't know what to do. This is going to blow up in their face. They opened up Pandora's box for every embassy to now be under attack. And we as citizens have to be aware of this. I work for the U.S. Embassy. I'm an intelligence professional. I was in Afghanistan. I understand this, and there's so many people. The intel community represents 3% of the entire government in regards to intelligence gathering. The politics cannot prevail on this at all.
Well,
somebody should be at task.
What gets me is after the hearings on 9/11, they said what happened was during the 90s, we got into this, you got the turf war, you got the FBI, you've got the CIA, and they don't talk to each other. They've got the wall and all that stuff. And all that stuff was supposed to go away, and it was all supposed to be filtering to one place. So everybody that learns whatever they learn would share, and we'd be ahead of the game. Well, this shows we were behind the game here.
No, we were ahead of it was real-time information coming in from State Department people on the ground saying it's not a protest over the video. They've got mortars. They're attacking.
Well, but I'm talking about the security people who are asking for help, saying we need more security.
The issue of the 9/11 Commission recognized the sharing of information with other agencies. That has been accomplished. The problem is the politician no longer, they've lost the point, they've lost the mark. It's the same animal, it's the same creature. The politician is in control of the intelligence. The intelligence cannot put out the information unless the executive branch allows it. They are the ultimate. The NSA, which is chaired by the President of the United States, is the only one that can allow the public to know that this intelligence is out there. If it isn't for individual professionals like yourself who uncover some of this information, then it will never get out. Right. Otherwise, the public will never know. The NSA, chaired by the President, is the only one that can release classified information.
Thank you, Andy. See, and my point, John, was when the Lieutenant Colonel Wood, when the regional security director and were asking for continued security in Benghazi.
And the DC-3 to move people around.
And all that stuff. It was the civilian people in the State Department who can give it thumbs up or thumbs down, and they were giving it thumbs down. So the experts knew what they needed. They had the intelligence. They had all the reports of all the different attacks during the past 6 months. They knew, but the civilian people who would decide whether they got it or not.
Right,
and they didn't.
There were decisions made, and sometimes people make a wrong call, and that doesn't mean that they're evil people. Sometimes that people make a mistake.
Well, it depends on the reason for the call.
But if you're spending money on Volvos in Vienna, Volts or whatever in Vienna, and not on
that'd be a really good story if it was Volvos.
And spending $4 an hour for security guards without any guns in Benghazi, that's a story.
Well,
whether Biden likes it or not.
If the reasoning is, I know people make mistakes, but the reasoning for having the local security is, well, we want to give the locals some money or some support and whatever. If that's why they're doing it for good feelings and window dressing, then that's a bad decision.
You remember Black Hawk Down?
Yes.
Soldiers were there. They had to use Humvees, not tanks. You know why they couldn't use tanks? Because President Clinton didn't want to have a high profile. Okay? He wanted to lower the profile. So he took the heavy armor out. And what happened was people got killed. All right? And the Secretary of Defense resigned.
David in a truck. Good morning, David.
Hey, how you guys doing? I watched the debate. You look at the shiny thing. You look at the man smile. Tell me, what policy of this president has ever worked? Nothing of this president has done will work. We cannot continue going $1 trillion into debt every year. More aptly, you look at Fort Hood, you look at any crisis this administration had to deal with. How did they do?
Well, Fort Hood was
different stories.
Yeah, but Fort Hood was workplace violence.
Workplace violence. This is the high bar. This is all this administration can do. This is all they're capable of can do. The president has no clothes, and no one can see that. I'm afraid, like Steve Wynn said, I'm afraid of how this president thinks on the economy and on national security. This is the best it's going to get. You're going to get cover my butt, protect the president, and we're going to tell you 6 different things, and that's our story for now.
But how about this, Dave? Do you remember Pat Tillman? Pat Tillman was, then he was an NFL player who was killed, friendly fire, and the Bush administration held on to that information. Politicians hold on to information to protect themselves. What we have to do, regardless of party, is always be vigilant and ask the same kind of questions that Jake has been asking and I a little bit over the past several days. What is known and what decisions were made, regardless of party.
1044 back after this.
89 WLS. When the candidates want to reach you, they come here. Your Common Sense Election Headquarters, 89 WLS.
$10.50. John Cass and Jake Hartford.
This is our new theme song for a new special segment where we call...
I wasn't at that meeting.
Jake and John take credit for everything. And I think...
What the record show, my friend, I didn't choose this.
I thought this was more Middle Eastern. I was hoping for more of a Brave Sir Robin type of thing.
I'm waiting for someone to come in with the latest copies of Bombay Badunka Dunkers.
I just want
to
see this is a belly dancing about to begin, but the idea is good, and
I don't even know if the idea is
the idea is great because
if it's not good, let's just make it great.
You know what? I'm not going to deal with your sarcasm, Jake. We have to take credit for when credit is due. We should take credit.
Oh,
you stopped.
John, I'm going to let you take all the credit now.
No.
Yes.
Jake gets credit for.
I want none of the credit.
Stopping. Okay, now you're ruining the whole segment. This is my. I'm getting into the radio thing. I'm trying to do this whole.
I think the music ruined the whole segment.
because it was sexy.
And probably my lunch.
It was because we
Maybe
started
even
out
dinner.
with Joe Biden on Depends, and now we have sexy music. It's only 11 o'clock.
Boy, if
All
that's
right?
sexy. Whoa.
You don't think there was something luscious about that music, Jake? What kind of a musical theorist are you, my friend? That was very medieval. I felt like I was watching Padma Lakshmi have a cheeseburger in a commercial.
Okay.
Okay, Jake?
You've been hanging out with Jenny McCarthy lately?
I'm not going to ruin your show. That's better. That's it. Jake and John.
Hey, by the way, I want to remind people, Chicago's Talk Leader 89 WS on the air and on iHeartRadio.
Anyway, what we're going to take credit for is Jake stopping. Okay, stop it now.
We already did that. Let's move on.
Jake stops the tax increase for the commuters for the suburban tax increase, and I'll take credit, even though Jake's forcing me to take credit here. On September 2nd, 2012, in the Chicago Tribune, some wise columnist said that school's chief Brizard was going to be fired. And I think he wrote, and I hate to quote myself, so I'll just quote this other smart guy, so let it be written, let it be done. I think that's what I said.
I think Brizard himself predicted that on July 17th.
When he got hired? When he was making his $250K? Who picks up the price now that they did the switch today? And Rahm Emanuel, while we were, instead of listening to us, he was actually having a news conference.
You know what you have to tell? I understand. He's gone. They'll write a huge book about his reign as head of the Chicago Public Schools.
Yeah, right.
You got to tell people the story how you met Walter Jacobson yesterday. You got to tell. He's got the new book out. Tell the people what happened when you met him yesterday.
I'm sitting out in front of the Tribune as is my wont on occasion, and here comes this little guy walking by with a kind of a puffy coat and pressed faded blue jeans, but very pressed.
And both of you have covered City Hall. He's covered City Hall. You used to cover City Hall. Now you're the columnist. He's the anchor man.
Yes, and I said, and he walked by, and I said, "Hello, Walter," and he looked at me like I was going to rob him, and he kind of did it like a half step away. I was just sitting there against the wall.
And what did he say in your long conversation with you?
Hi. And then did a jump away. Like, you know, a horse will jump sideways. It was like, am I scary to you? Do I look that scary, like I'm going to rob somebody?
And
he looked like, I thought he was, yeah, okay, very nice. You should see them through the glass.
And that's the story.
They're like, kind of a robber look.
That sounds like a really warm moment with Walter.
It was.
He had no idea who you were. He had no idea.
You know how warm it was? It was almost as warm as just 30 seconds ago when you were dissing my cool Levantine belly dancer music about to begin. Which he ruined the whole dang segment of my fledgling radio attempts at getting into radio, and you ruined it. I wanted us to have a segment.
10:55.
There you go.
Back after this. Put the snake away.
89 WLS. An ABC News update is just minutes away. 89 WLS. And online at WLSAM.com.
Coming up to 10:59 right here, John Cass and Jake Hartford. John, let me remind people again, get well wishes for Don.
That's right. Don is going some treatment, and it would be great to do that. You could write him a letter. You could go on WLSAM.com to the website or Gmail. What is it?
It's getwelldon@gmail.com.
And that's real easy, or write a letter. And all our prayers and best wishes for Don and Roma and I know from all of you and from everyone here.
It's got some tough times ahead. Ahead in a couple minutes, Russia will be coming up. There's some breaking news on how the polls are changing, and it's not looking good for somebody in the election. And then at 2 o'clock, it's Rowan Roper with your afternoon drive home. With all the news and all the latest stuff you need to know. I'll be back in 19.